Hey, welcome to the Gig Life Podcast. I'm your host, Stevie Taylor. My guest today, Joe Accaria is back. Joe and I first sat down together for a chat in early 2019 for what became episode number 32. It was great to sit down again after 5 years and chat about what he's been up to, the progression of the stage show Velvet, the inception of Drummer Queens. We talk about drums and drummers, electric versus acoustic, and he gave me a bit of a vocal lesson. He also has a new project with his mates called Lakemba Sound Machine, so we talk a bit about that as well. Always good times hanging with Joe. Hope you dig it too. This is episode 149, Joe Accaria Returns. Here we go. I think we're rolling. Joe Accaria, you're back.
My goodness, I'm back. Where have I been?
Where have you been? Good day for ducks, by the way.
Yes, good day to be in studios.
Yeah.
Or your own studio.
Yeah.
So I've just been bashing out some admin and some tracks, and sometimes not having a plan is pretty good.
Yep.
I'm running a business as well, so I've got to be conscious of that and making sure that things work, and some of the shows and stuff that we're doing, I've just got to be responsible. But sometimes it's good to let things fly. But today was like pissing down all day. I just stayed here all day. And you just met some of my friends.
I did.
And they're off to see a gig at Lazy Bones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we're here. We're here in a different place.
Yes, we are. So last time, let's go back to that. That was 5 years ago.
I can't believe it.
So we're in. It's almost October 2024. So it was actually it was February 2019.
Okay.
And it was at your old place, your old place in Marrickville.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we're sitting in your new studio here now, and we'll elaborate on that a bit. But when we were sitting at your place in Marrickville, there was lots of you had posters and stuff up, but your workstation was a little desk over in the corner with a laptop, and I think you had a couple of J-Car.
They were Bo's roommates or something.
Oh,
yeah.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to downplay it with the J-Car thing. J-Car make good stuff.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. Have you seen their drones?
Let's get some drones.
Well,
Well, I did have a studio as well in another place called Stage Door.
That's right.
So, things happened there as well around about, I think we call it the Great Flood of 2018.
Yeah.
Did we talk about that then?
I think we did.
Yeah, because my good mate Yanya Boston and Dom Cabrera saved all my drums. There was a flood. It was the fire. What are the sprinklers? Just basically wet everything. So my 3 rooms up at Stage Door got drenched.
Yeah.
I was away.
Yep.
On a cruise ship. No, not cruising. I was doing a show called Velvet. Yeah. But I was in the Bahamas, which felt like such a wanker going, guys. And my mate Sprinkles in Melbourne said, something's happened at Stage Door. I'm like, I don't care. I'm on a beach in the Bahamas. So, but I was working.
Yeah.
So, having that little home station was cool, But in Marrickville, and very well, every 5 minutes we'd have to have the Marrickville pause while the planes went over. So the whole point is my intention was to buy a place and, build a studio and have my work at home again, which I really sort of felt like, I could get back into that frame of mind. But, Marrickville was to find the space, and, when you're trying to buy a house, you know what it's like. It took a while. So we ended up in Earlwood. Yep. Which is not far from Marrickville.
Yep.
Just down the road. But I never knew some of these cul-de-sacs and these streets that we're in now. I had no idea.
Yep.
So the search went a little bit further out, and, eventually we found this place, and here we are.
Yeah.
Around about October 2019 is when we got the place, and then we didn't move in until February 2020, and we all know what happened straight after that. right?
Yeah.
So, paint a picture quickly, is that I was in Adelaide doing Velvet Rewired, which was the new version of Velvet with Marsha Hines.
Yep.
And, our big circus disco show. And we're in Adelaide. We're doing the Fringe Festival. We hit about March 15. We start hearing murmurs of something's going down.
Mm.
Obviously, we read the news and, but in Adelaide, when you're talking about mid-March, there was no COVID. It was sort of happening in Sydney. We know what happened in Melbourne. But in Adelaide, everyone's at the Fringe Festival having a great time. And then we started feeling towards the end, it's like, are we going to be able to finish this thing? And then there was talk about, okay, you guys, we finished March 15. We need to get you on a plane. You need to go back to Sydney because they're closing the borders. And I'm with Marsha. Yeah. We're just like, we've just done 6 weeks of 8 shows a week of Velvet, which is
wow. That's a haul.
Sounds glamorous, but it's like
no, not at all. It sounded like hard. That's a haul.
Yeah, yep. And it's in a Spiegel tent. Can get hot. Yep. Can get wet. It's all the things, So yeah, we funny enough, Marsha and I missed our flight because we didn't realise that they'd changed our flights. So we missed our flight and then had to get another flight. We got home and then they closed the border that day.
Yeah, wow.
And that was mid-March 2020. So that's so from when I saw you at my place, we're only talking a few months later, all this stuff happened.
Yep.
Moved house.
Yeah.
Went overseas, did some Velvet stuff overseas, and then
okay. So on that, when we last left each other,
okay,
you were just about to leave on a hunt for some new DJ Sambucas.
DJ Sambucas, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
How'd you go, by the way?
People are probably listening to this go, what are you talking about?
Listen to the first episode.
Okay.
Our first episode.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
I think if you listen to the first episode, you'll get a bit of that information. Also, I think people they message me saying that's some of the best naps and sleeps I've had in my life after listening to you speak for an hour and a half. So good luck this time, everyone. Yeah. Think of this like it's like a meditation.
Yeah. Yep.
Me gradually boring you to death. Hopefully not death, but just nice REM sleep. But
and then my voice is that little bell.
Exactly. Who's this
bell?
Dong. The reason why we call my character in Velvet was a DJ that played percussion. And what happens is that there's all these denizens of the night, and it's like a nightclub, like Studio 54, and then there's Marsha Hines. It's a disco circus show. So I thought, originally I was doing the soundtrack, and then the producers asked me, "Would you be in the show?" And I said, "Yeah." What about if I'm a DJ, I play percussion. Anyway, the show evolved, and we created this character called Sam Booker, right? Spelled Sambooker.
Yeah.
And that's sort of become a little bit of an alter ego for me, like when I do sort of dancey disco stuff or I do a remix and I've actually written stuff as Sam Booker now, which is really cool. Right. Yeah, especially during COVID. Right. So anyway, we're going to Germany I was going to the US, and so I had to recreate that character. But they also had to play percussion, they had to sing. There's a little bit of spoken word stuff where, like he has this sort of Barry White thing. It's like,
you just lowered your voice.
You've got it.
Got that Barry White.
Well, Sam does a speech. He goes, in moments like these, I wish I had wings, and maybe I do, and maybe we'll all grow them here tonight. And so I had to create this guy, right, which I think was great, And I think we talked about the fact that removing yourself from a professional situation and creating a character, even though all I'm doing is just triggering tracks, playing some live percussion, a bit of Roland SPD triggers, and then I come down to a solo, and it's like just become that guy.
Yeah.
But when you duplicate the show overseas, and I can't be in it, or there was a point where we had to find more Sam Bookers, so we found a couple. We found a couple in Mexico.
Excellent.
And we found one in Germany, Joanie, who's an amazing percussionist. And her husband is Benny Greb, by the way, just so you know.
You're joking?
Yeah. Yeah, so I hung out with Benny.
Just looking at
my
sonar drums over there.
Sonar vintage series.
Yeah.
Benny and Joanie, they're partners though. They live in Hamburg, and
Right.
she plays my role in Velvet in Germany, in Hamburg.
Right.
And then
Not a bad percussion teacher if she needs one.
she's amazing though.
Yeah. Oh, is
Yeah,
she? Right.
She's great djembe player, great hand percussionist.
Right.
And then, funny enough, we're rehearsing. There's a theatre, and they have a rehearsal room upstairs. And it's sort of in a, I'm not going to say dodgy, but not the most salubrious part of town, let's say, right? So
Right.
the back alleys where you have to lug your gear and stuff, like pretty, there's graffiti and there's some interesting characters around the place.
Right.
And then there's this guy lugging in her percussion gear. And I'm going, I know this guy, and it's Benny. So Benny, if you're listening, and anyone who is listening, even Benny Greb lugs his wife's gear.
Nice.
Just saying. And got to hang out with Benny for a few days, which was fun. And I mean, we all know how phenomenal a drummer he is.
Yep.
But he's also a really cool guy.
That's cool.
He lives in Hamburg. So there are now male and female versions of Sam Booker
Right.
in the US and in Germany. Yeah. But the original Sam Booker, still exists. And there's no, and I don't, someone said, would you do the show again? Of course I would, I still love performing.
Yep.
I still love being on stage. I still love the feeling of there's a great feeling of having created something and then doing it. And then there's the feeling of having created something and watching somebody else do it.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting, watch how does she take on that character, take on that. And even though I'm not, I'm not even trained, I'm not even an actor, but it's a thing of like, just pretend you're someone else. So then Joanie named herself DJ Jane, as just a name.
Yeah.
And then she just became that character,
That's cool.
But yeah, pretty fierce percussionist as well. So
yeah. Going back on you performing, right? How much are you performing now in any setting, playing drums or?
Yeah.
Because obviously you've stepped away as the performer in Velvet. You're not doing that because other people are doing that. But are you going out and playing gigs?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. Cool.
Yeah. I did a gig with David Campbell on the weekend.
Right.
We've been doing some shows with Mahalia Barnes and David, doing some old stuff. Great. Love it. And also MDing from the Kit. Love that.
Right.
We did some gigs recently with Marsha where we recorded and I produced a gospel album with her, and then I played drums and conducted choir and played.
I interviewed Juanita Tippins.
Oh, Auntie.
Yep, and she was in the process of sorting out all the vocal.
She did all the vocal arrangements, which are beautiful, I have to say, but also under duress in terms of we were still doing it, still 2021.
Yep.
The COVID years, whatever you call them, what you call it, we still had to, we still wanted to be creative, but we had to be creative about how we recorded things because of lockdowns and the amount of people you can get in the studio. Then we did that live. So look, I do love playing live, and I think what I do less of these days, Stevie, is I think I just told you we did a reunion gig with our band The Strange at Lazy Bones last year, which was, a hoot. The problem is that I used to love doing local gigs. I've had a couple of hernia operations. I had another one last year.
Right.
And, my body is starting to feel 53.
Yep.
Well, actually, it's already feeling 53. But there's certain things you can't do. I can't lug a traps case up 3 flights of stairs anymore. I just can't do it. But if there's a house kit, I'm there. Like, And so, obviously opportunities come up with corporate gigs and playing with artists and doing sessions. I'm playing here a lot when I'm recording for other people in my studio. So, I think it is less. And I think that I'm a little bit more selective about the gigs I want to do. Not only I will do a gig for nothing if it's a good hang.
Yep.
It's not really about. Of course we need money, and we do this for a living. But it's really about the quality of the experience for me and what is important, what I know that I'm going to enjoy. If I'm not going to enjoy it, you're not going to enjoy being around me when I'm enjoying something. So, and that's it. Maybe I am, it's a bit snobbish, but it's also about understanding.
Not at all.
Well, it's understanding, you're understanding what makes you feel good as a human being.
Yep.
And I did so many gigs, mate. We're talking, I was doing this since I was 15, right?
Yeah. So you've earned this. You've
if you call
this.
it that. Yeah. But also my back and my hernias are going, dude, don't stop doing this.
You've over-earned this then.
I know. It's and you realise that, interestingly enough, having moved to Earlwood, my one of my physios, and I'm not joking, I've got a couple of physios now. This is me trying to get my body back together again.
Yep.
In a way, it's not broken, but it just I need to understand what's going on with my back, and and so Ephraim Bunjerik, who some of you drummers will know.
He's a drummer. Yep.
Ephraim is a physio, and his clinic is up here in Earlwood.
Oh,
so
right, okay.
he comes and runs down the house. I'm going, who are you? What are you doing? He's like, I'm up the road. So he's sort of helped me in a big way get my body understanding exactly what I need to do.
Yep.
And a lot of I think, because I used to play standing up, Stevie. I used to play drums standing up.
Like cocktail type?
Yeah, similar.
Sort of?
Yeah. So I started with Wendy Matthews in the 90s, and then I did Floyd Vincent as well, where I had a hybrid setup, kick drum, mounted hi-hat, snare drum. In the middle were two congas and sometimes a timbali, some bits. And I would play standing up. And his theory was that maybe I put a lot of pressure on my left hip.
By having to lift your foot up while you're standing up.
Exactly.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I felt it.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Imagine,
exactly what
imagine doing that like 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
And, guys, back in the day, we used to do 6 gigs a week.
Yeah.
And I was, that first tour with Wendy was for me, and I'm not shy about saying, it was really a breakout gig for me. She was doing great things. She was topping the charts, and then all of a sudden I'm on tour with Joe Accaria playing 6 nights at the Palais Theatre in Melbourne. I'm like, what is happening to my life? But I think the reason, one of the reasons someone seen me play standing up, they saw this guy plays drums and percussion at the same time, which I sort of was, but I was sort of faking it a little bit. Yeah. But I was building grooves and playing songs with this setup, right?
That's not faking it.
I mean,
playing music. Yeah.
Sometimes I go, well, I've only got 2 arms, so.
So this is going. You and I had a discussion earlier about electric drums versus acoustic and the purists. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So are you thinking like this because the non-purists or the purists are going to walk into you doing standing up at a that sort of hybrid type kit and going, oh, he's not playing percussion.
Yeah.
Do you think that's in the back of your mind? Is that why you said that?
I won't say that it isn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and as much as I could sort of promote the idea that I could only make a certain amount of sounds, but what I could do is recreate the songs and the music in the way that I interpreted it with this setup.
Yep.
Which is, how am I want to play percussion at some points, I want to play some drum kit at some points, and then I want to try and play both at the same time and try and incorporate, both things. And there was one song with Wendy, which is sort of my favorite. It's a Bobby Womack song called Woman's Got to Have It. Mm-hmm. And it's this great. I'm going, okay, it's a drum kit group, but there's a conga part. Okay, so what I really want to play the conga part, but I need to have the 2 and 4 with the snare drum. So if I play the conga part with my right hand and the snare drum, I'm not going to be able to play the hi-hat.
Yep.
And I'm standing up.
Right.
So I have to eradicate one of those things. What's the bit that I can lose? Well, what I can do is I can play the congas with my right hand, play the backbeat with the snare, and have little ghosties and fills. And I didn't have any toms either.
Yep.
It was just kick snare hats, 2 congas, a few bells and whistles and some mark trees and chimes and all the fruity things that you need. But I was like, maybe my right hand is still the hi-hat, but what it's doing is playing the conga part.
Gotcha.
And my foot and my left hand are still playing the drum kit part.
Right.
But there's no hi-hat. So I'm just going right hand, and it's playing eighth notes, but then it's sort of doing a slap on the one and then it's doing the double conga, and I slowly learnt how to interpret the song and I felt it was quite limited what I could do, because once you set up the groove, then if you think about other things like drum fills and where do I hit the crash cymbal?
Yeah.
And what am I going to play in the chorus?
Yeah.
You know, so the chorus groove is different to the verse groove. So are you going to go and pick up your so I would do things like play the verse and then I go to feel. I had a little table
thing,
had mallets and sticks, and I'd pick up a stick and play it on the hi-hat. Yay! You know, it's like I was just making it up.
That's cool.
But it was like, what is important in this song for me to go, okay, if I can economize the groove and play this sort of conga hybrid drum kit thing for the verses, maybe for the choruses I can pick up the stick and play the hi-hat. And then that sort of made me think about things like, okay, well, the chorus, it needs to elevate, so then maybe I will go to the hi-hat so it's a bit bright and sparkly. And so I didn't have time to think about what people thought of me. I had a job to do. And I was playing, like full theaters with someone that was at the top of their game and supporting an artist like Joe Accaria. And I if she liked it,
that's it.
Then that's it. So as long, like, the thing is that it is a collaboration. So obviously you're working for somebody, you're playing somebody's songs. Some of them have been hits. Some of them are sort of forming the part of the set. Like, it really is a collaboration. It's not really about me. It was important that everyone around me understood, and they had that trust in me to do it. Now, mate, I'm not 22, 23 years old, straight out of the conservatorium.
Right.
But it was a perfect scenario, because it did flick my brain into going, this is what you're doing now. But, you know, and criticism, the most important criticism you can get is that constructive one where you go, hey, you know, and someone can give you, purist or not purist, it doesn't really matter. It's like, you know, I'm not the first person to ever have a hybrid drum kit. Like, it happened before. Like, of course we're using influences, and we're drawing upon all of that beautiful music that I heard, you know, and before, I was so into, you know, the Real World thing with Peter Gabriel, and all this stuff was happening. And I'm like, going, how can I do some of this and incorporate it into my drumming as well? So I didn't have time to think about what people thought. Yeah.
So you mentioned percussion, and let's talk about who we didn't do this the last episode. We didn't talk about who your actual drumming influences are or were, or are they still the same guys? Who was who were those early drummers for you?
Guys and girls.
Yeah, guys and girls, yep.
Guys and girls. Well, look, Sheila E.
Yeah.
For me, when I was young, I had no conception of male, female, and you know, you see a Prince film clip and there's Sheila E. playing, you know, drum kit, double kick, and then she runs out, dances. She's wearing half a dress and she plays a timbali solo. And I'm going, who is this? Do you know, like, imagine being like, you know, I'm pretty young here, but I'm a bit of a Prince fan, you know. So I think a lot of it was visual, to be honest.
Okay.
You know, and then obviously I gravitated towards drummers. It really was about some of the albums I was listening to. So I was listening to a lot of rock. And then I was listening to a lot of funk and a lot of pop in the middle, like George Benson, Michael Jackson, you know, George Michael. And then I'm listening to Midnight Oil, and Rob Hurst was such a big influence on me as a kid, you know. And then I'm into James Brown, and I'm going, well, you know, Clyde Stubblefield and John Jabo Starks, and listening, just absorbing all of these amazing, talented drummers. And then, you know, I got into the Weckels and the Vinnies and the Alex Acuñas. But that when you listen to people like Alex and Trilok Gurtu, it's like they had their own thing.
They had a thing.
They had a thing. So, mate, I'm a fan of drumming. Like, so they're all influences. And then you realize that Stevie's playing drums on his albums. Like, he's playing drums on Superstition. And then you go, really? And then Prince is playing all the instruments on I Want to Be Your Lover. And you go, he's playing drums?
Yeah.
And then you go, Lenny, and you buy Lenny Kravitz's album, and Lenny's playing everything. Like, he's a drummer as well. I'm going, whoa, wait a sec. Is everyone a drummer? What am I doing? I felt inadequate. Do you know, everyone's a... So my favorite drummers were the ones that had a style, had their own thing, but they weren't necessarily drummers. Like, I look at Rob Hurst, for example, who's become a good friend, and I've helped out Rob with some Roland stuff, which we can talk about as well. Like, re-triggering some of their all their old samples and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of his old triggers were just falling apart.
Right.
But he was a big influence, I saw Midnight Oil at the Hordern Pavilion when I was 13 years old.
Right.
And luckily enough, I was pretty tall back then. I was playing basketball. So I just ran straight to the front, had the best view. And I look at the way Rob played drums, there's this physicality about it, right? But then you listen back to the albums, there's a musicality about it. And he was writing, and then you go, he wrote this song? And that's when... your brain goes, okay, there's more to this. There's great drumming, and there's drumming we always talked about the song, playing the song, but then they're actually the songwriter and contributing to sounds and production. And I listen to, you listen to some of the snare drum sounds on 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 10 to 1. And the collaboration between the musicians and the producer, like Nick Launay, Midnight Oil, for example. So I started looking into those things as well.
And how old were you at that age? At that stage?
I was about 13.
Wow. See, I for me, I didn't start thinking about that stuff till I was in my 20s, I reckon.
Right.
Mid-20s. When I was 13, I was just wanting to play. I had no idea how I sounded. I was from quite a small town, so there weren't all these different sounds around. It was just like, and when I started playing drums, the drummers that were playing in my dad's bands, all the drums had the Remo muffles in them.
Oh yeah,
it was that 70s sort of
sound
brought into the 80s. So dok, 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 dok.
Yeah, and
I thought that was a cool sounding drum kit. So, but I never thought about any of that stuff until I met some people in my late 20s and mid 20s and started zoning in. So
you see in the other room all that vinyl stuff. We used to buy the vinyl, so you could open up the vinyl and then you'd read all these names. And
I certainly had that, but back then it was more. I think it was more about the pictures.
Yeah, that's right. And there was no internet.
There's no internet.
No internet.
Yeah,
but it's pretty. For me, it was a combination of visual.
Yep.
Actual dexterity playing the instrument like a million miles an hour or with beautiful grace and time and feel and looking at those other elements of what their collaboration was, because if you had favorite bands, it's like, well, these are 5 people doing this together. If you've got someone like Prince, and Prince is playing all this stuff himself, recording the albums, but then when it's live, it's like this thing that's happening in front of you. I watched Sign of the Times again recently, and that concert is like, it's a spectacle. As in everyone on stage, they're not just playing their instruments, they're performing. So I got a taste for that very early. I was lucky enough when I was in London in the mid-90s. I went to see a Clyde Stubblefield, who was James Brown's drummer. Yep. Obviously Clyde, the funky drummer himself, did a workshop, and then they were offering lessons for 50 quid. I'm like, I'll find 50 quid, And so I had a lesson with him. And
cool.
Because I was doing a lot of funk stuff in Sydney, that was great to just get his take on how things worked around he manipulated between his hands and his feet as well, and I saw a funky interview with, and when I talk about other drummers like JR, John Robinson as well, when you're listening to that stuff from Off the Wall into Thriller and, the Jacksons and then playing, he's on George Benson's, he's on everything, right?
Yep.
And he's doing an album called The Dude with Quincy Jones, right? And apparently he set up a kit the night before, and they were going in the next morning at 11 to start tracking the album. And when he got there, they'd taken away all the toms and left kick, snare, hi-hat, and a crash.
Right.
And when you listen to that album, even the song of the dude, you go, there are no fills.
Right.
It's all, they took away everything.
Yep.
And you look at the restraint that he would have had to, approach that session with, But when you listen to the tracks, you go, wow, it's really musical what he's doing.
Yep.
So yeah, there was a little bit of, I love session drummers. I was so infatuated with this idea that, you could just go into a studio in LA and record someone's album. And then I started doing it. I was getting the calls myself.
That's cool.
And that, that was, that's when I could lift a traps case, Stevie.
Yeah.
They had people doing it for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the one thing, I don't have a favorite drummer.
Yeah.
I just think I always gravitate to the musical ones and the ones that had physicality and performance.
Right.
That really grabbed you. Like, they wouldn't be the most technical, most brilliant drummers in the world, but there's something about them. I mean, you look at Sheila, and she's still playing.
Yeah.
At a level that is beyond me. At the there was Letterman had a series. David Letterman would have drummers playing.
Yep.
And Sheila's one. You just go, really? And then she gets on the timbales, but it's showy as well. So that's her. That's brilliant. And that's Sheila E. But I like that. But then when I see drummers like Benny Greb and I watch them play something from a drum and bass thing to a big band track, I'm going, you have got a very broad scope of talent here, and you've got a beautiful way of maneuvering around the drum kit, which I think is really.
And he's right on top of his drums.
Right on top,
and
yeah.
Flat
he's got his
low
style.
and
He's got his style. And for me, the reason I got into music was watching drummers, because I was fascinated by the physicality of it, and like, what's that foot doing? Why is that? What's going on there? And and you're actually making music as well. I know it's a very simple way of looking at it, but
I know what you mean.
But yeah, it's quite fascinating. And when you see drummers that look effortless that way, it's really great to watch. And Vinny's one of my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
Look, I was even into Dave Weckl, and like the fact that they had a vehicle where they could do these fusion albums and they could record and write their own stuff. I mean, I think that's pretty cool, and then there's guys like Nate Smith, for example, who just like can just make that sound on a kick, snare, and hi-hat.
Kick, snare, and hi-hat. That's it.
And it's effortless, but it's also musical. And he's also a composer and loves writing his stuff, plays piano, and the fascination for me was digging deep into what makes them tick as well.
Yep.
And then if you get a chance to see them live, like, I had a lesson with Dennis Chambers as well.
Did you? Right.
I did, yeah. And he was great. Like, and then when I was in Vegas with the boys, Human Nature, I got to hang out with Dennis every Monday night.
Wow.
Because he was playing with Santana, and I was with Human Nature. And on Monday nights, there'd be a jam night where all these musicians would jam. And there was there was one time where I got asked to come up and play, and Dennis was the first one to go, "No, man, don't do it." I mean, what do you mean? Because we'd had a couple of drinks, right? Because we'd already done our show, so it's like next week, just come back and we won't have a drink and see if they call you up, and they did, and it was good to hang out with Dennis in that way. Like, it's not that way of like, of course you're one of my idols. I think one of the most ferocious drummers in the world, but also one that can lay down a groove like you wouldn't believe. He's playing with Santana. I'm doing Human Nature. I'm going, I'm just going to take this while I can.
Yeah.
And we got to hang out as people as well, not necessarily drummers.
Yep.
But he was very adamant about the fact that if I'm going to get up and jam with these cats, do not drink.
Do not drink
before.
Yeah. That's good advice.
So I waited a few weeks. go through a few hours of not drinking. They're going to call me up. It's like, I don't know. Dennis, what are you doing to me? He's like, I mean, it's my night off.
Yeah.
I can have a couple of drinks.
Yeah.
But he was great that way.
Earlier on, we were talking about your we briefly started talking about this new space you got, because you're in Earlwood now and you've bought this house, then COVID hits.
Yes.
Right. So we're actually sitting, we're in your new studio. And if you look at the photo for this episode, that's you sitting in your studio at your desk.
That's right.
Right. So that room, you've told me this previously, we're actually sitting in the shed.
It's the garage.
It's the garage, right?
Once was a garage.
Once was a garage.
Yes.
Now, when I first came here, your house looks like a house.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like a house. It's got a studio in it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first walked in here and I saw the space, I went, fuck, wow. And then sitting in here and then you telling me that it was a garage, I'm like, I don't remember seeing a garage door. And then, I walked out and had a look. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's the garage.
Stuck it back on.
Yeah, you stuck it back on. That's
With
right.
Rivets, just,
Yeah.
this place doesn't exist, okay? Canterbury Council,
Yeah,
okay? Yeah, it was the garage. Well, I think originally there's I wanted to build a studio at home. I wanted to have the space at home.
Yep.
I wanted to be able to record and keep doing what I was doing in terms of creative stuff, composing, writing, playing drums, and also producing stuff, arranging people's stuff. But yeah, I mean, you got to remember this is a residential area. So, but yeah, the garage, it was pretty obvious. It's like, great, I had to do some work. Sorry, I've got a burp.
You're right. That's the beer.
We're not drinking beer. Edit that out.
We're not drinking beer.
Didn't we drink beer last time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I come back from that Velvet Rewired that I mentioned
That's
at
right.
March
That's
15. I
where
come
we were.
back. The idea was to build a room as soundproof as I could, but it is still residential, so I've got to consider the neighbours. So if you look at the space, there was a window there. This is great radio. It's a great podcasting. So, and the garage
Joe's
door.
pointing to his right.
Yeah, and there was a window there, and then there was the garage door there. So we lifted up the garage door. I'm going, well, we have to brick that up. So we put another skin of brick. So I'm talking to a carpenter, builder friend of mine, and then it starts looking like, it's a bit of a shell. It's going to be good. And then we start doing some sound testing with a guy called Michael Fronzek and David Gilfillan, who are incredible acousticians. And you're going, it's a garage, bro. Like, what are you getting? It's like, it's a garage, but there's 60 hertz just flying over there.
Yeah.
There's a bulkhead there.
Yeah.
There's an I-beam here. It's a garage. It's not a studio. It's not built like a studio. We have to try and simulate the building of a studio within the garage.
I like how you said 60 hertz floating over there. I just got the image in my head of, that fucking green ghost on Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's 60 hertz.
So, like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they're just, the guys looking at me, I don't know what
We've got some work to do, mate.
We've got some work to do.
Yeah.
So, in essence, it was my COVID project.
Yeah.
And Steve, my builder carpenter, who helped me sort of gut the place, re-brick, re-render it the way that you can see it now. It was good because and that was the advice that I got from the acousticians, the guys that just went, listen, the first thing you need to do is make it into some sort of like contained area.
Yep.
And you can see the shape of it. It's not square or rectangular. So they're going,
not a slap.
Exactly, even worse. So basically they're all going, look, do you really want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, look, what do I do? How do I? So one way of economizing, not only time-wise and financially, was that I just became a labourer for Steve, my builder. It was great. Well, he said, I won't bring my apprentice. You just do all the stuff. I said, well, heavy lifting, no. But, chucking bricks into a skip bin, no, I can do, right?
Yep.
Breaking up pieces of wood and, carrying things in and out and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's a really cool space where it's the it's the vision of what I think a home studio could be, and what I want it to be. And also, it's part of the house. So, I live with my wife, Leah, who you know, and she chose the blue. And I'm going, well, this is part of your house as well. So, I don't want to encroach upon that. But then we got a pretty serious door there, which is was recommended to me. I think that Jim Magini has that same door in his studio, but they're double doors. So we're thinking about breaking up that wall and putting double doors, but then there's plumbing. Like, it's a house.
Yep.
But that door cuts out a lot of sound. And it's a lot quieter than where we were in Marrickville.
Yep.
And then gradually I started thinking, this is a cool space. So, I've got time. We're in lockdowns, and there were times where you could have builders and you couldn't. It was a bit tricky.
Yeah, that would have been.
But it just gave me something to do, mate. And at the same time, we had this idea that the idea of drummer queens, which I'd had before, was sort of morphed into more of a stage show idea, and it was only then that my co-creator Nigel Turner Carroll, who is a brilliant theatre director and actor, he said, "Look, why don't you, and we're all going through it. We're all trying to work out what the hell's going on with our lives. Here I am. All of our work's gone, and I'm building a studio, and I'm not working, but I still want to do the things that I was going to do, and one of them was build a studio. 2 was make a show called Drummer Queens, and Nigel was really instrumental in that. He said, "Well, why don't you just write a drum piece every week when we're in lockdown? Like, just write a thing and then just record it." I said, "Well, I don't have a recording studio because I'm building one, but I had the V drums next door.
Yep.
So I had all my TD-30s and my SPDs, and I had my samples, and I had my Logic, and I'm just." Basically, he just said, write me something every week and see, and some of it landed and some of it didn't.
Yeah.
But it was great having that motivation to be able to, be building a studio, but also working and recording, and, you're doing all the Zooms and all the things that happen with, now you go, you look back at that period and go, wow, how did we get through it? We just made it up as we went.
Yep.
But what it did is it introduced us to new technologies, obviously, and new ways of communicating, and the fact that we can, you can get through things, and you can make things, you can compose, you can write, you can produce, we can record, we can talk to each other on the other side of the world, and keep our projects, the flame going a little bit, and also, there's the side of it which we also lacked was the reaction and the companionship of having human interaction was gone. But it made us talk to each other a little bit more, and it's like, and hang out, and you called people a bit more and say, hey, listen, how are you going over there? Like, and we've got friends all over the world like you do, and you've got family, and how are you guys doing this? Like, what's going on over there? And you look at the news, and I was watching what was happening in Italy and the States, and it was hard for everyone from a mental health point of view as well. And I think that for me was having a little bit of a purpose at the time really saved me a bit, because and there were times when, of course, we were down, but I was building a studio, I was writing music, and I had no idea what was going to happen. And I felt a ridiculous freedom with that as well.
That's cool.
And I'm just saying, well, eventually the money's going to run out. Like, something's going to have to give. Like, we just bought a new house, and here I am gutting the garage and making a studio, and also trying to write a show where there was no sense of future, which we didn't know what was going to happen. But
and this was the first lockdown, right?
The first one, yeah.
Right.
There were a couple, right?
Yeah, there
were a
was
couple.
The two, wasn't there? The two major ones. But
wasn't the second one the next year?
The second one was the
December.
I found that I don't want to hark on too much about the COVID thing.
Sure, yeah. No, I shouldn't.
But but I certainly found the first one, and I've said this before, the first one was kind of, okay, there was that stuff, but it was also that whole reset thing, and can do this new stuff, and it's kind of interesting and exciting, but then we all got over that, and then we came out of it, and everything was kind of normal again, and then we fucking locked down again.
Yeah.
That was the hard one.
Yeah.
That was like, you're fucking kidding. We can't do this again.
Yeah, and for me it was a bit of a time for reflection, but also it was great because I was building a studio. It's like there were bits happening, and
look at it. It's amazing.
I got to hang out with my wife as well.
Yeah.
Which was quite rare. And also it taught me to understand the value of connection, and also what I valued for myself and what I like doing. I actually, even though most of the time I get, aren't you that drummer? I get that a lot.
Yeah, right.
I get that a lot.
Right.
Well, aren't you that drummer? It's like, yeah, I am. Still am, but also this is what I do as well, and for me, this space was about having a bit of a space where I can be free with my own time, but also work for other people, and also collaborate with some of my favorite friends and artists like Marsha and David Campbell, and do pre-production for their albums, and then we go record the albums, and this was all happening,
Yep.
Like we never really lost sight of what we wanted to do. We're trying to work out when we could do things.
Yeah, right.
And then things would open up, and you get your hopes up, and but what I just wanted to keep the wheels in motion as much as I could, just for me, just to feel that I was contributing enough. And now I realize that this space is a cool mixing zone. I've got some great engineers who come and mix here. Yep. Because of the treatment that those
you told me that,
those guys did, yep. And they really worked hard. Yep. You can see all the bass traps in that corner. Yep. I mean, that's not even a corner. Like, what do you call that? Yeah. Guys, it's a garage.
That's like, what's that, 15-degree angle or something?
So there's someone
massive...
someone designed this.
Yeah.
Right? But, and that's why the guy...
But your... Doesn't your fence line tilt?
Yeah, it does.
That's why it has to have that bend in it.
Yeah, and then so there's a bend in the garage, right. Everyone, just so you know.
Yep, and there's a beam through the middle where you can hang your block and tackle to change your motor.
Yeah, I've thrown a 57 over that. Just fucking hang it up.
Yeah,
off you go.
through that hole.
Through the hole.
That's nice.
That was where the automatic garage door was going through. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, there's an element of like this is really it's a working studio now, but it's also a bloody garage.
Yep.
So yeah, I like it. It's a space for me that's in my home, and I know that there's often, people talk about, do you want to work from home? Do you want to have your studio at home? Like there is that balance. I really liked having the studio not at home.
What I the thing for me, like, I thought about that too first time I came in here, but I think, and you've said that Leah helped with the colouring and, make it part of the house, but it definitely looks like a studio, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, if I was, I don't live here, but if I was living here and I got to come into this, if I got to close that door and come into this space, you'd honestly think you were somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then once you're done, you turn the lights off, you open the door, and then you're in your house.
Yeah.
It's a different space.
Yeah, and I think also the fact that we were doing it during COVID, the people that I was working with were sort of like, everyone was going through the same thing. So they were up for creative options, because I'm going, guys, I'm not an acoustician. Like, can we treat this space? And it was like, it was a bit touch and go there. Like, I mean, could you please? And then we're okay. What do we? And that door cuts out about 80 dB. It's got 2 panes of 10 mil glass with a 16 mil in the middle. I learned these things, Stevie.
Yep.
You learn these details when you're dealing with experts and you're building something that you have no idea how it should work. And then we talked about all the other things like lighting and the panels and I'm excited for for the future as well, because I think that I've sort of done pre-production and recorded the best part of 3 or 4 albums here already.
Yeah, wow.
Since I've been here, which is great, and some of them are commercial releases and some of them for musicals. And obviously we compose the music for Drummer Queens here, David Campbell's album, Saturday Sessions, Marsha's Gospel album, and the music for a show called Dubbo Championship Wrestling, which was a wrestling musical for the Hayes Theatre, which was really, really, really interesting for me. It started happening around the Marrickville days, and then I was brought on as the music supervisor to help a couple of young brothers who had this idea for a wrestling musical. And we're talking WWF style, that style musical, but it's set in Dubbo.
Okay.
So immediately my ears pricked up. I went, this is either the worst, stupidest idea I've ever heard, or I've got to be involved in this. So I did. So we got to sort of shape the music for that show, and we did a lot of the recording here. We did some stuff. We were doing Zoom and Audio Movers recordings with studios like Sing Sing in Melbourne.
Yep.
So, like, obviously Melbourne people couldn't come to Sydney.
Yep.
So they could go to a studio, and so you're doing Zoom. You're monitoring on Audio Movers, which is a program where you can listen to the output of someone's studio via internet in real time. Yeah, but you can't record in real time, but you can listen. Yeah. You can listen to it.
Yep.
In whatever the internet is spitting through at that time. Gotcha. But we actually could get things done, which was, another way of creatively getting around the fact that we couldn't, all hang out and collaborate together. So that was while the studio was being built as well. And we had, we made guitar amps, like caves, and recorded guitars of live drums. And it was just fun. Yeah. And no one cared around here. They're still to this day. The neighbours are like, we have no idea what you're doing there. they see the little LED lights and go, well, he's still up. Something's happening. But because it's so well treated, they can't really hear what's going on.
That's great.
So that, for me, the main thing was like, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not like doing Lars Ulrich drums here at midnight. That's just not going to happen. But I don't want to have a situation where I'm in a residential area. And, and it's also not really a commercial space where people come in and out. It's really the people that I work with and for come here. And it's a safe, fun space. And also, what's built into it is a sense of, okay, before we used to go to studios and we'd have to, the pressure was on, to get it done because we're on the clock. The clock means that the financials are running and we need to get results. Here is about, okay, we have the parameters of this amount of time. Within this time, I'd like to get this much done. Mm-hmm. And one thing that happened during, the COVID time was that you did have time, where you did have a way of economizing, the output. You could go, well, let's just, do the pre-production on this project and let's get some demos happening. And then you can work with your studio. And that's why I like collaborating with a lot of my people. It's like, well, once we get the idea and I've sort of manifested what I think this should be, then we can all go and work independently. And so, I think it was a really interesting way of looking at the way we treat our time as well. Because I think for me, the most important commodity is time. When I don't have time, I really feel it, and I'm pushed or I'm pushing myself, and I don't really, I like to have a little bit of
don't like that discomfort, right?
Yeah, and I sort of build that into projects now. I build that like if rehearsals start here, okay, what do I have to do to get to that rehearsal period? I need to do these arrangements, and I want to be ready for when I hit the ground on that day. You know. Yep. And it's like practicing for a gig. You want to be at rehearsals day one knowing your shit. And then that next period of collaboration happens. But what I can do here in this space is I can take my work home with me, and I don't bother anybody doing it. And I just have to go down the stairs, and it's still it's a pretty quiet residential space, and it's just really nice to get to know the neighbors, and they know that there's a showbiz couple on the street,
right,
in the avenue,
right.
They know because my wife is in showbiz, I'm in showbiz. It's a showbiz couple, right? But
there's a show right there.
It could be.
I was going to name the name of your street, but I'm not going to, because that could be the name of a show.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't you reckon?
Just call it Electric Avenue.
Electric Avenue.
Eddie Grant. We're gonna rock down to.
You mentioned, as you're talking about the studio and starting up a new project. You mentioned Drummer Queens.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you for as long as I've known you and known who you are, you've always been sort of connected with drumming and percussion sort of ensembles and groups and stuff. And I did learn about this when I interviewed Yanya. So Drummer Queens, it's a big extension of that, isn't it? So do you want to tell us how Drummer Queens came about and the whole premise of it and where you're at now with it?
The premise originally was to create a drumming group, which was not necessarily male or female.
Yep.
That we could turn into a stage show of some description, because I was such a fan of West African drumming, Brazilian drumming, batucada, and then you look at Japanese taiko. Like, I had all these influences in my head, and when I saw group drumming, there's something about it. It did something to me. It made me feel like there's a power here. There's such a strength, isn't it? Like and so we'd do gigs in the 90s, like Brazilian groups, and we'd morph, and that, like, people drumming together in time, doing it really well, pretty good. Chai Tent, Woodford Folk Festival, not so good. Too many djembes. I can say that because I was there.
Okay.
But then, out of that need and getting some gigs, like I was asked to do some music for NRL Grand Final when Ricky Martin was doing his thing, and they wanted 16 drummers. I went, okay, great.
Yep.
Here's an opportunity.
Yep.
Let's get some drummers. So with immediately I thought it's got to be male, female. I want to have an equal balance here. And the balance has to be in talent as well. I'm not talking about just because male. It's about.
I understand. Yeah.
But also, I think that it's time for a community to happen. This has been happening in countries, Stevie, all over the world, where we know that women play drums in groups all over the place in big continents like Africa and South America and in Asia, and like it's not a new thing.
Yep.
I just felt like it was a time for me to start something here. So we did this Ricky Martin thing for the NRL Grand Final. I had 8 boys, 8 girls. With the female percussionists, we'd done auditions for Tap Dogs, where we replaced the 2 drummers, which were male. The Tap Dogs has 6 dancers and 2 drummers. I was one of those drummers. And we went, okay, I'm off. We want women up there.
Yep.
And we ran auditions all over the world, found some amazing drummers, and some of the amazing drummers in Sydney, who to this day are still playing and professionals, and like,
yep,
they always were. I just think that the identity is often clouded by the gender, like, and I just saw talent. I saw performance, and I saw visual, and I saw something that I could maybe harness that and grab that energy and put it together and do something, right? So after that, I thought, okay, well, what about we started with 4 girls, start this thing called Drummer Queens, which I just came up with the name saying, sounds like Drama Queens. And it's a bit of a pun. I mean, I love puns.
I never thought that.
Oh, come on, mate.
Very serious.
Drama queens.
Never thought it. No, being a drummer, I've just got drummer queens. Cool.
Well, I'm sitting there with Dean Perry. We're doing Tap Dogs, and he was, and some of the guys were like, being divas. He said, look at these drama queens, and I looked up at the guys, like, drama queens. Okay. Anyway, name you got
epiphany right there.
you got to have a good name.
Yeah.
But the idea was to bring these women together and see what we could create, and I think I always wanted it to be a show of some description, a stage show. But how do you entertain? How do you engage? How do you keep an audience with just drumming? It can't be just drumming. It has to be visual. It has to move. There has to be obviously lots of drums, lots of different drums, and lots of different performance styles. And then that's amalgamated into what is Drummer Queens now, which is that. I mean, Drummer Queens is 6 drummers and 2 dancers. But the 2 dancers play drums.
Right.
And they're very good drummers as well. And the drummers can move. And the drummers can play a character as well. So there's those other layers as well. But for me, it was the force of women playing drums together, and the influences are mine musically. It's just music that I've heard and wanted to recreate, but with this ensemble, So it's a reflection on what I've learned as a drummer myself, but also harnessing that power and seeing how that connection can happen. And I started writing some stuff, and then we started choreographing it, and there was a bit of movement, a bit of drum line, we started getting some gigs, corporates, sport. It was a bit of a thing. It started getting a little bit of an identity, and then I think we just before COVID, we spoke about how do we get this to the next stage of maybe making a stage version of the show or a show. And, obviously ideas are running. Nigel and I had some amazing immersive ideas, the audience goes through the space. It comes down to money, Stevie. And it's pure and simple. You can have the best ideas in the world, but if you can't manifest it with funding, it's not going to happen. How do we do that? So we asked for funding, and we got it. And we got to make a show.
Excellent.
I will admit that it was the Scott Morrison government that gave us the funding, although they probably didn't care what we made anyway. But it was called RISE funding, which was stands for something like Restart Investment in Entertainment. So we got some money to develop the show during COVID. I can't remember now. It's 2020. Yeah, so things opened up around October. Yep. We got to do a workshop, and we got all of our team together: sound, lights, choreography, drums, drummers, everyone. The 8 women that I felt were into it and also available, and were in the country.
Right.
And some of our drummers in Drummer Queens, they play gigs. So, Lisa's playing for Stephen Marley in Miami and Jamaica, and Loz has been playing with Angus and Julia Stone. Steph's playing with Marsha Hines.
Yep.
Elisa's playing. They're all playing with people. They're all drummers. They're all professional drummers. So we just ended up putting together this workshop, and then it felt like we could invite people to come and have a look. What do you think? And then the Lyric Theatre in Sydney decided that they were going to open up again, theatres. So theatres were closed pretty much all the way up until the end of 2020, early 21. And obviously there were restrictions, and, everyone had to wear masks and stuff like that. But we thought, here's an opportunity. We've got the funding. So we put it on, and we made it. It was an intense period, but it was great watching us all develop together and those relationships that formed. And we made a show that we feel like we've got the start of something that could be something bigger and better, and something that we can bring to the world as well. And it's sort of, I think that one thing that I realize is that, that connection, watching young people watch these women on stage was really enlightening, because I'm in the audience watching. I'm not in the show. I composed the music and I came up with the concept of the show. But when I'm sitting in my seat, in row F, there's nothing I can do anymore. I'm done. My job's done. I can't go up and fix things. I can't get up there and play myself. We've entrusted this idea to this group of women, and watching people's reaction, like they were watching Marvel characters, and when I was at stage door, when the girls would come out, they autographs and photos, and they became
Awesome.
all sort of mini superheroes, because there are young people watching these women play an instrument that's not necessarily always regarded as the one I'm going to look at. It's just, usually I'm watching Taylor Swift, or like this is they were their own entity, and I really it gave me a lot of hope for people watching live music and live theatre, because that sensory experience that's the only way you're going to get it.
Well, you kind of got that when you saw that first Sheila E. performance, right? When she came out and did that, the whole thing.
Yeah, it's not conventional, but it was conventional for her. And it was, there was no other thought. And so with Drama Queens was like, how can we push? What can we push? How much can we do? Like, what have we got time to do? What have we got the money to do? And how much do we want to push each other to get this done? And that's when you've got good collaboration, like working with directors and choreographers, and staging, sound designers, set designers. You've got an idea, but how can you make it work? So I got to sort of, I suppose I got to enact a couple of wacky ideas of, like, what if we could build a drum kit during a show? What if a tap dancer could tap around a drum kit? What if the drum kit was on wheels? What if it folded down and folded up? Like things like that. Like, so it was, collaborating with designers, and, what if we had a marimba with the delay, and like, these aren't new things. They're just like, can we make this happen? So everyone, was sort of aligned in this sort of, it's a pretty wacky idea, but it's not implausible. Like, you could make this happen. And it was great. I think the greatest thing was the connection between the girls and them. They're the performers now. They were the rock stars. You know what I mean? We all got tattoos.
Yeah, I saw that on your arm. That's cool, man.
Yeah, I succumbed to peer pressure with.
I've got. By the way, my stubby holder. I'll take a photo of this. And
you should.
Yep. Property of a queen. So it's a Drummer Queen's stubby holder, can holder, and it's got that logo, which is, I guess it's a crown, is it?
It's sort of
kind of a crown. Yep.
It's a crown with drumsticks. Yeah. That's the idea. The idea is.
Yeah, there's the tips.
Yeah.
Very cool. So where is Drummer Queens at now in October 2024?
Yeah. We did a season. We did 3 seasons in 2021. Sydney Lyric Theatre, Melbourne Comedy Theatre, and QPAC in Brisbane. In Brisbane, we filmed the show with like 7 cameras. So we've got like a sort of a movie version of the show. And then we sort of got a little bit cut down by those second lockdowns in 2021, where in that latter part of the year, things sort of were a little bit, it was not the greatest time to put on a new show.
Yeah, gotcha.
But we did it. So in the interim, we worked on getting a film of the show rendered beautifully, and it sounds and looks great.
Ready to send to the world.
Yes,
right?
ready to send to the world. We were going to put it on streaming services, but we thought we'd hang out until more people saw the show.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And so the idea is to build an international identity, an entity of the show overseas, and we're looking at the US at the moment.
Great.
So there are drummer queens everywhere, and fabulous, amazing percussionists and drummers, and I think the opportunity to expand the idea internationally is sort of, part of the next stage for me as well, like to see where it could go. But it's a show in the world of Stomp and Blue Man Group. It's a physical theatre rhythm show. It's not a musical.
Yeah,
it's not a concert. It's in that world, so we know where it fits. So we're trying to get a little bit of traction in the US at the moment. Yeah, and I went over a couple of times, and some of it, I mean, yeah, we've got some fabulous percussionists over there that interested in perpetuating the idea, and hopefully we get to do the show late 25 in the US. That's the plan.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
Yeah. And nothing else sort of local until then?
Nothing else sort of local, no.
Yep.
Most of it's Drummer Queens, what I call Drummer Queens Light. We do like little corporate performances. We do sporting events.
You're still doing that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
And always keeping the family together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Low C. Yeah. You got that one? That's good. You practice that enough. Your voice gets used to it, but you've got to work your way down.
I'm going to work on that.
To work your way down the octave. But yeah, that's one way I learnt my low voice, because I went, I've been singing this note now. Yeah, I can be a little bit like, he's Barry White. He's. I realized, maybe that's what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a baritone.
You want a baritone,
a bass baritone in opera.
Right.
So I might be this like 70-plus-year-old opera singer.
Yeah.
And you're like, I think I know.
You're always looking forward.
And look at any opportunity.
Any opportunity, yeah, let's take it.
Yeah, but it's like anything. You practice something long enough, your body gets used to it, and that's what your throat and your voice box is, and it's a combination of muscles and tendons and bones, and all getting used to doing something, which is sort of what drumming is in a way. But that's why I love singers.
Right,
I'm fascinated by people like Jimmy who can sing like that. How do you get that sound? It is. There is a physicality that comes with what's going on with this area. Man. Yeah. Anyway, what were we talking about?
So, because I've recorded that.
So, did you?
Yeah, I might actually work that into the intro. I'm going to work that.
You trying to sing a low C?
No, we went through it.
Yeah.
And then you explaining me, you telling me my inadequacies, and that I need to practice more, pretty much, which I've had all my life. So. Oh yeah, I'm still practicing, mate. I mean, I don't really practice anymore. What I do is you maintain. It's like it's maintenance. It's grease and oil change. Yeah, exactly. It's like making sure your body's all right. How are my wrists going? How am I feeling? Yep. Can I still play an E minor 9 chord? Things like that. Just making sure that my brain's still working. Yep. Yep. You can get lost a little bit sometimes. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. But practice is maintenance, not necessarily practice, but it's also like discovery. I found this new little thing. Wow, cool. Okay. Well, since we're talking about that, going back, like I said, I first discovered you through the whole Roland thing, and so I've had a few sort of incarnations of the Roland V drums. Mm-hmm. So the first one I had was the TD3. Wow. Back in early 2000s. Yep. Rubber pad, just this little box, basic sounds. But back then it was like, because that's the first electronic drums that I'd ever had. Mm-hmm. And I think the first time I saw them was at might have been the Australian Drummers Day at the Ultimate Drummers Weekend. Ultimate Drummers Weekend at Kudos Bank Arena. Mm-hmm. Yep. So anyway, I had them for a while, and then joined a band, and the band leader wanted me to buy some electric drums, so I bought the TD15 KV Roland drums. Yep. First mesh set, but small. Little silver module. Yep. Yep. Well, sort of a funny shape sort of thing, But I have the Roland VAD 706 drums now with the TD50X module. Wow. Now, from early 2000s to here we are today, 2024, this module, the technology curve is just mind blowing, right? The drums themselves, they're the size of my main set drum, so 14-inch snare drum, 10-inch tom, 12-inch tom, 14-inch floor tom, and it's actually a floor tom.
Yeah.
It's got the legs.
It is.
And you hit it the floor and it vibrates the floor, right?
That's what you
as
want.
a floor tom.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the detail inside that module. But you're talking about the discovery and the practice. Because this module's got all these different sounds. Now my practice has gone from when I was playing just my one sounding acoustic kit to just playing a groove. Now it's delving into all these sounds but then it's also about like finding a groove that feels good and then playing that exact same groove with 16 different drum kits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And the feel you're getting off the pads is different because
it's amazing,
because the samples are different as well.
They are. And those VAD drums have the digital USB inputs now.
Yeah.
Digital input for the hi-hat and the snare drum.
That's
and
right.
The ride cymbal. It's just...
Well, interesting enough, a couple of my snares are in that module.
Really?
Yeah, one that's here. One that's next door, which is my Ludwig Supraphonic.
Yep.
1965.
Wow.
My Les Soprano 14x5's on there. There was a time where Simon got myself, John Farris, I think Chris Whitten, who's Dire Straits drummer. We all just donated all these snares, and they got recorded.
Wow.
And they're in those modules now.
So do you know what they're called?
Yeah, I think. I can actually get the name of it. One of mine is just 14x5 steel snare, aluminium.
Okay.
So SR aluminium, 14x5, and there's a few of them. Yeah, and then eventually you get to mine. So, that one. But they would have sampled it a few times. But yeah, there is that realness about it. They are real samples.
Yeah.
And when you look at some of the detail that the Roland creators in places in Hamamatsu where Roland is, they've got a beautiful studio where they sample all these drums. The detail is beyond anything we've seen.
Yep.
So there is a realness. There are real samples. There are real drums.
Yep.
In those modules, absolutely. And then there are process sounds as well.
Oh, of course.
Which we love as well. Well, I do. So yeah, it's that combination. And then you can start making hybrids and layers and all the stuff that comes with what Roland does. Yeah.
Yep. It's amazing.
Yeah.
In the last podcast that we did, there was a point there where you're talking about you would go in to do sessions of just playing a hi-hat.
Mm-hmm.
And this is back in 2019. So if you were trying to program something, you can't program you probably could program a hi-hat sound, but it would take you hours. But then the joy of the performance is gone, right? Whereas you pick up a hi-hat, you put a mic on it, and you play it.
Yeah.
You've played it how you're feeling it at the time, right? And you capture the performance. So, that's something I never thought we'd be able to get to in electric drums. But the hi-hats on that VAD, well, these USB digital hi-hats with all the new sensors that you've got now, comes pretty close, man.
I think that was always the thing with Roland V-drum kits where, okay, the drums sound good, they feel good, the kick drum, I got a fat snare drum, the hi-hats were always like, oh.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a crude way of saying that they were so working on the technology and the velocity required to sample.
Yep.
It's just one of those things you can't. Hi-hat is a direct thing in terms of the sound, but also the nuance.
Yep.
When you play and open, you can open up and we're talking about. Some of the stuff that I did was just playing the hi-hat. So I'm trying to mimic what the other parts are doing, but I've got, tea towels or pillows on the snare drum where you can't hear it. But all I'm recording is the hi-hat because the performance they want is the hi-hat for that particular recording.
Gotcha.
But yeah, slowly, with, especially when I started playing the TU-30 that I've got now next door, I felt that I could really lay into things and create grooves a little bit cleaner.
Yep.
And I felt that when I went into the MIDI of it and looked at the velocities and stuff, I could manipulate it a little bit easier, but you're still getting the performance of me playing
Gotcha.
that groove,
Gotcha.
And that's that's sort of what you're trying to achieve is the feel, the performance, but also if you want a clean sound you could program it. You could go into the velocities and all the components of that MIDI recording and make it sound as real as you can. But 3 hours and 3 minutes. What do you want? 3 hours or 3 minutes?
That's right. Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, to be honest, mate, a lot of the stuff that I either demo or do pre-production for or even record is all done on V drums.
Wow.
Sorry, everyone.
No, don't apologise.
It's on records.
Yeah, sorry, purists.
It's there. But it's also I've ascertained that there's ways that I can make that the economy of capturing the performance, but also getting used to understanding, what I do with the audio and the MIDI, and give people an option. They can have the audio, they can have the MIDI, they can have both.
Yep.
They can change my performance, they can realign things, they can quantize, do whatever you want.
Yep.
You're just asking me to analyze, interpret, and perform something that you've asked me to do, and I've decided to do it this way, which gives them a few options. And then, there's no doubt, mate, that sometimes I just go, okay, great. All the demos are done. I'm going to go into a studio with a drum kit, and I'm going to play this stuff in myself now.
Yep.
I've already learned it. And sometimes I do on albums that aren't necessarily recorded all live, where I can manipulate them to that extent. I do the drums last because I've built the tracks around my performance anyway.
Gotcha.
It's still my performance. Now I just go, I need to go to a studio with some decent mics and do it in a big room and get a proper sound, and then I can come home and
look at all the options.
Yeah, and edit and do all that stuff myself. But yeah, it's that point of that I was making before, where we can do stuff at home these days, but I don't lose sight of the fact that if I need to record something properly, I will do it properly.
Gotcha.
When I say properly, I mean with the parameters that I want the project to sound a certain way.
Gotcha.
But if I can, manipulate my understanding of V drums and the way I can assign samples to different, MIDI notes and triggers and stuff like that, and build a performance that way, it's still me.
Yep.
But I'm doing it within the confines of my time parameters and the gear that I've got here. You know? So. Yeah, there's no real answer to it. What it is understanding, what the parameters are in terms of like the choice is yours. Don't listen to anybody. Like experiment with the stuff. Learn something like a V drums module, like an instrument.
Yep.
Learn. There's so many layers within that as well. And it also does make you listen to sound more. What does a 909 snare sound like?
Yeah.
Well, Roland actually made the 909, and this is the 909 snare that's in this module. So that's what it sounds like. And then they'll give you like 30 options of it. You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting understanding synthesis of sound, what's digital, what's processed, what's real, what's acoustic, and not necessarily having a set of rules that come with it. If I need to achieve something, I'm not shaving time or money, or I'm actually experimenting with something that is providing me with a real option. For making sound. But most of the time, for me, it's like if it's a 4-minute piece of music or a song or something, I can just go, all right, I'm just going to play this in once, and then all of a sudden there's a drummer in the room.
Gotcha.
Do you know what I mean? There's a performance. Now, it's probably out of time. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to use it anyway, right? But it's there, all right? I've begun something. And for me as a tool, not me being a tool.
I thought it for a second, but then I thought let it go.
Me as a tool.
Yeah, well, you said it. And that can be sampled, and it can be triggered from a Roland V drum pad.
Me as a tool.
Me as
tool.
a tool.
I'm a tool.
Yeah, low C. Tool.
Yeah, it is. It's,
Sorry, Joe.
It's just in the what do you call those things that builders have? Toolboxes.
Toolbox, yep.
Some of them have big toolboxes in the back of massive utes.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. There's a shop in Tempe that makes those things, right? That go in the back of utes.
Yep.
That's fascinating for me. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
It's got nothing to do with this podcast.
No, nothing.
But they've got massive toolboxes in the back of their utes.
Well, you're basically a tradie, though, aren't you?
Pretty much.
Now, yeah.
You got to look at it. We're tradies.
We're tradies. Well, I actually am a tradie.
There was a song in Dubbo Championship Wrestling called "Tradie Ladies," which I think if you go to Spotify and type in Dubbo Championship Wrestling cast album, you'll get to hear that song.
Linked in the show notes, people.
Thank you.
There it is.
Yeah, we are tradies, and so understanding that those tools are valuable for however you want to use them.
Yep.
When I'm told that, well, you're replacing real drums with digital drums, it's like I say to them, actually, that's my snare drum in that module.
Yeah,
So
you can actually say that.
It's that snare drum. No, I mean, it's just to make a point.
I know.
It's to make a point. It's not to. I mean, it really is all project based.
Yep.
You know, if I need to, build what could be the, all the skeletal parts of an album and building the rhythm section and knowing that I'm approaching this by going, I'm going to replace all of these drums eventually.
Yep.
And I have this saying called demo-itis. I know a lot of people use it, like, because you go, the drums sound fine. Right? No, they sound fine, but I'm going to replace them.
Yeah.
But there are bits that I'll keep as well.
Yeah.
Do you know? Like I was saying to my friends who were here before, I was saying, those fills, they're all separate. They were. I did them all separately.
Mm.
Sometimes I record fills separately. I do hi-hats separately. Like you do overdubs. We do drum overdubs. It's been happening since the dawn of time, of recording time. You know, we're not doing anything that's surprising anybody. The purists out there that think that we're cheating or whatever, but whatever we're doing, we're creating. We're just using, all the tools at our disposal. And it is for me about time. If I need to put an idea down, like, for me to even just record that little setup that you see there was kick snare, hi-hat. I've got to go. I've got to turn things on. Yes. Do you know what I mean? And with V drums, they're on all the time, and I can just whack it down quickly, and then I can replace it if I need to. Or I can use it as a compositional tool as well, or as a way of knowing that what I'm doing is not going to work for this particular piece of music. So, yeah, it's just part of your arsenal.
Gotcha.
One of my favorite words.
Gotcha. Now, during lockdown, I mean, you did mention people became sort of closer via things like Zoom, and music started to get kind of put together from places all over the world and that kind of thing. Now, you and a few of your mates started something up during that time.
We did.
And
yeah.
No, sorry, not we did. I didn't.
It's yours too, mate.
Yeah.
Belongs to the world.
Well, before we start talking about it, I'll just let everybody know here that I've actually heard it. I've actually heard some of this music. So it's the Lakemba Sound Machine.
Yeah.
So please elaborate.
Lakemba Sound Machine, yeah. It's a collaboration between four old friends. We were the rhythm section for Human Nature back in 2002. Other artists like David Campbell, you name it, we did it. We were a rhythm section. We always had an idea that we would call, like what I do with Sam Booker, we'd call ourselves names, or the artists would give us names, like the Funk Foundation. And then I think at one stage we said, what if we were called the Lakemba Sound Machine? And this is like over 20 years ago, and everyone's had their respective careers. All brilliant friends. We've known each other for a long time. And during that first lockdown, we thought, why don't we manifest the idea of Lakemba Sound Machine and write some stuff together? Because, it's that thing of like, you're always playing somebody else's stuff. Let's write some stuff together. It doesn't there's no rules. There's no intention for what it's going to be. Let's see what we come up with. So the Lakemba Sound Machine is basically an instrumental project. One person that's been on your podcast, Serge Dimitrijevic, Serge D, who lives in LA at the moment, and we always, kept in contact and started, the idea that maybe during the COVID lockdown we could record some stuff. Like everyone was doing it, and this is not unique, but it was finally, you have ideas, and life and work gets in the way, So Lakemba Sound Machine is now, looking at releasing what we're calling a 7-track mini album. The genre is confusion. It's fusion, but it's confused. It's
Love it. That's
confusion.
Great. Yeah,
and yeah, it's 4 guys from Lakemba. We're not from Lakemba, but it's called Lakemba Sound Machine. I suppose I'm the closest one because I went to school at Punch Bowl.
right.
So it just sounded like a good name. So yeah, we've been modifying and tweaking and finessing what those original compositions were. And now they're becoming tracks, which are getting mixed and mastered as we speak.
That's cool.
So that hopefully the world will get to hear it around summertime. It's
cool.
It's fun. It's really fun seeing the results when the parameters were free and there's no preconceived idea about what this thing is, It might not have worked. We feel that it's worked, and we've got some music to prove it. And I think it's going to be interesting to hear people's reaction as well. And there'll be visuals attached to it as well.
Yep.
So not necessarily just a music project, but I think there's a really cool, new vanguard of instrumental music happening around the world where, people are still engrossed and craving that live experience that doesn't necessarily have to have lyrical content. Of course, it has a rhythm and melody and all the things, but yeah, it's just what's happened. It's what we've created, reacting to each other in a certain way. You could jam something with 4 people in a room that would sound different to 4 people being in 4 different places around the world doing it.
Yeah,
and reacting to each other's performances.
Yeah. And
that's what we've done. Yeah, and created this entity. So, yeah, I can't wait for you guys to hear it.
That's cool. And Ben Cripps is the bass player, right?
Ben Cripps.
Yep.
Jam and Cripps is the bass player. And the wonderful Nick Pringati, who we call Sprinkles, is on keyboards.
Okay.
But none of it was ever done live. It's all done. Yeah, it's confusion. Yeah, basically tried to confuse each other into believing that we could write music together, and we have. Again, it's one of those really fun outlets for us as professional musos to be able to, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that, sometimes, some people actually don't like writing music, and I get that. Yeah. I think it's, I could easily say to you, Steve, I'm happy just playing other people's music. Contributing to something that is a collaborative, creative, original project for us as musos is just a little bit of a releasing of the pressure valve, just going, and obviously, as I said to you before, time is an important commodity, but also those connections are important as well. So as friends, as musicians, we're like family in a way. We have been family. And when you get separated from your family, it's about, do you keep the family going? And it's been really interesting us working on this project because when we've never ever been in the same room,
Right.
I think Serge was here last summer. We just had to listen to some mixes, in my studio here. And we're going to start writing the next one, But yeah, Let me know what you guys think.
So when's that coming out? Summer.
Hopefully summer.
Yep.
Summer Australia time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're going to. It's going to be a 7-track mini album EP or whatever you. I don't know. Whatever you call. What do you call 7 tracks on a record? It's not even like. It's not. Is it an EP? Is it too long to be an EP? See, that's what confusion is.
What's the total length of the? If you put all 7 tracks together.
Oh, I don't know. They're about like 4 or 5 minutes each. Is that a mini album or an EP?
No, because people are bringing out albums that are 26 minutes long.
Oh, okay.
So
we just call it
an album.
Okay,
it's an album.
You heard it right here, guys. Yeah. We're calling it an album.
Yeah, I went in too because that was my idea.
Well, I'm in. You can call it whatever you want.
I've been to Lakemba.
That's right. Well, we're hoping that the first film clip.
Yep.
To one of the tracks is going to be filmed in Lakemba.
Cool.
Yeah, that's all I'll say.
No date because you don't want everybody rocking up there, right?
No.
Secret location.
It's in Lakemba. Yeah.
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 Yep.
Lakemba's not very secret, Stevie. It's just down the road. It's a wonderful melting pot of beautiful, amazing people, and it's also, for us, it's a nod that, we all grew up in different socio-economic and places in Sydney,
yep.
And it's a celebration of that as well, and that's why the name's not. It's a funny name, but it's also like I was a big fan of the Miami Sound Machine.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what if it was Lakemba Sound Machine?
Mm.
Same, just still a place.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a bit of a sound machine, and I think that for us, it's a really interesting way of keeping those relationships going through music. This might sound strange, Stevie, and you might not have to publish this, but I think that music makes you friends and family with people. And if one of those things isn't happening, then I don't think the relationships would be there. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Like we're together because we played music together.
Exactly.
If the music wasn't there, I don't know whether we'd be friends because that's what brought us together.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps us together.
Gotcha.
Now, of course, if you just met a friend of mine who's now a Qantas pilot,
right?
We're still friends, of course.
Right.
But his connection to me is like, yeah, can I hear some Lakemba Sound Machine, or what are you working on at the moment?
Yeah, cool.
Or that's his amp just there.
Yeah.
That's his orange amp.
Yeah.
Like there's still a connection musically,
Yeah.
And that's what family is. The branches of knowing people. We're always going to have that connection. And I think that's really important. It's important for your own identity as well, because I think that when we're alone in this world, but if we understand that we have these branches of connection to beautiful people and the world and the universe without getting too cosmic, which I always do, I think it's really important to have those relationships. I'm a small family. Yep. Most of my family's in Sicily, right. So I only get to see them once every few years, gotcha. Right? So for us musicians, we're family.
Yep.
Look at people like we're godparents, we're uncles and aunties, it's a real extended family, and why not keep that going through music?
Beautiful.
Yeah, man.
Love you, brother Joe.
Love you, Stevie. Thank you for coming back.
Mate, thanks for having me.
Good on you for doing this too.
Another 5 years?
Yeah.
Go again?
Yeah. Yeah, let's just make it a date.
We'll make it
hopefully
every 5 years, okay.
Every 5 years.
Yeah, easy.
I reckon I'll be okay. I reckon you'll be okay too.
Yeah.
I reckon if you're still doing this, I think it's a great effort. I think it's a great effort already. The fact that you still make the effort to come and see people like me and our contemporaries, and that you're interested in it, I think it's a great thing. And hearing the stories, hopefully no one's fallen asleep to this, but if you have, remember, this voice is for meditation. Yeah.
Nah,
They can
can't do it now.
No, they can switch
Not
off.
after 2 beers. I can't go that
They're going
way.
to switch off now, yeah.
Yeah, they're gone. Cheers, Joe.
Cheers, mate.
Love you, bro.
See you next time.
Yo, it's Stevie here. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you dig the Gig Life podcast, please subscribe, share, leave a review. Please follow us on Instagram and TikTok. You can send me a message if you have an idea for a guest or if you just want to say hello. This podcast is free, costs you nothing. But if you find the value in the Gig Life podcast, you can leave a tip or a donation. Links are in the show notes on your app. That's it for me for now. Catch you next time, guys. Cheers.